Well, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, there's a shark out there, and his name is Chris Cox, and he's living in the ocean of AI. It sounded so much better in my head, I promise. Wow, that was so bad. I apologize. Anyway, yeah, Chris Cox was talking at a Goldman Sachs event last night, less than 12 hours ago, as of me recording this, and is just going on about AI usage in the world of Hasbro and, of course, also Dungeons and Dragons. So we're going to talk about it. It's just interesting to see when we've heard so much conversation from WotC, and I'm assuming, and I can't say this with certainty, but I'm assuming this is very much a left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing situation, similar to what we saw with the player's handbook kind of controversy a couple weeks ago. But Wizards of the Coast has been very adamant about how D&D is a game for humans by humans and will never have AI DMs, and AI won't replace the game that we all love. Obviously, there was the difference of when they had the AI art in Bigby's Glory of the Giants, and then there was the instances where Magic the Gathering says, no, all of our art is not AI created, and then they're like, oh, whoops, except for that thing that was AI created. But either way, if you like what I do here, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out, and it'll keep you up to date on news like this. Unfortunately, this is sometimes the kind of news we have to bring. Also, a big shout out to Christian Hoffer, who has joined the N-World team. They came from originally comicbook.com. We've referenced several of their articles over the years, and now they are on N-World's team, which, again, their coverage of TTRPG stuff has always been fantastic, and now we've got them on a TTRPG specific, side of the house, so that's exciting. All right, so here we go. Hasbro CEO Chris Cox is convinced that the Dungeons and Dragons franchise will support some kind of AI usage in the future. Speaking today, or yesterday, at a Goldman Sachs event, Cox spoke about how AI products could soon support Dungeons and Dragons and other Hasbro brands. Asked about whether AI has the potential to, quote, bend the cost curve, end quote, in terms of entertainment, development, or gaming, and how it's being used in the toy and content industries, Cox said the following. Inside of development, we're already using AI. So flat out admission that they are. It's mostly machine learning based AI or proprietary AI as opposed to a chat GPT approach. Now, I'm not really an expert in the world of coding and IT and AI development and things like that. So I'm not really sure. But I couldn't tell you. I know what ChatGPT is, and I know how it works to some degree. I don't know the difference between ChatGPT and a proprietary AI just sounds like it's something they're building internally for whatever usage they're building it for. But I don't know what the difference between a machine learning based AI and ChatGPT is. My assumption, and again, please, if you're someone that's more knowledgeable on this than me, correct me or educate me in the comments. I was under the impression, I guess ChatGPT lives in it's a snapshot in time whenever like the current build of it was made, that's what it is. And it only has so much information that whatever was plugged into it at the time. But I was under the impression that the more you taught it, if you will, gave it information, the more you fed it, the more it could learn and adjust. So I'm wondering what the difference between that and true, apparently, machine learning-based AI is. I don't know. Let's keep going. We will deploy it significantly and liberally internally as both a knowledge worker aid and as a development aid. Okay, so flat out, we're not even trying to deny. We are gonna deploy it in a significant and liberal fashion throughout the company, as both a knowledge worker aid and as a development aid. As a knowledge worker aid, I'm assuming this means to probably do more like admin style stuff, maybe take meeting minutes. And I'll say, for what it's worth, I think like Zoom, for example, has an AI feature where it will listen. You can have Zoom listen to your entire Zoom call, and then it will generate a summary of everything that was said during the call and like basically give you action items, follow-ups, all that stuff. So as a knowledge worker aid, if it's something as simple as that, as like taking meeting minutes or removing some possibly just mundane admin tasks, Now, again, that could be possibly taking away a job potentially, right? As someone who is an admin. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what my assumption would be what a knowledge worker aide is. But as a development aid is interesting. So it sounds to me like this might be like, hey, we're working on a new toy or whatever it is, a new line of Transformers. And I guess maybe if they feed it all the information about the existing Transformers franchise, it can just spit out a new toy or something. I don't know. Or like a design or whatever. I'm probably more excited, though, about the playful elements of AI. If you look at a typical D&D player, I play with probably 30 or 40 people regularly. I mean, first of all, I feel like that's a in theory a good sign that we're playing D&D, right? So if we're talking about revolutionizing the world of Dungeons and Dragons one way or another, at least you're playing the game. And 30 or 40 people, I'm assuming this isn't in one game. This is probably over the course of several games, but hey, that's a good sign, right? There's not a single person who doesn't use AI somehow for either campaign development or character development or story ideas. That's a clear signal that we need to be embracing it. We need to do it carefully. We need to do it responsibly. We need to make sure we pay creators for their work. And we need to make sure we're clear when something is AI generated. Okay. So I'm going to try to come at this objectively. So, okay, and I get that, right? In theory, the concept behind, campaign development, character development, story ideas. Okay. You're a DM. You're trying to design a campaign. You have a bunch of really great ideas. You're really stuck on this one thing. You don't want to talk to your players about it because it's going to impact them. And maybe, you don't have a group or, like I'm lucky enough in a lot of instances to have you guys where I can just, if I'm really struggling, I can turn that into a piece of content and say, hey, I'm trying to come up with this for my campaign and then ask you guys and we can workshop something together, whether in live stream or just off of the comments. But I guess bouncing ideas off of an AI might generate something for you. Same thing, right? You're trying to come up with a backstory for your character and you don't have something or you have a couple of loose threads. You kind of feed it into an AI and say, hey, I'm looking to build a backstory for my D&D character. I've got X, Y, and Z. Flesh it out for me, and it does. And I guess the same kind of thing, like, hey, I need a couple of story beats. I need a campaign idea or one shot, whatever, and you feed that into an AI. So at least it's nice to see that he's saying that the usage of it needs to be done carefully and responsibly, reasonable, right? I mean, we live in a world where we don't feel like we're that far away from Skynet. I don't think that's what he means, but either way. Now, the next line of we need to make sure we pay creators for their work is interesting because you could make the argument that if you can truly build whatever proprietary AI that can help you as a development aid, at some point to me, I could be wrong, but at the cynical view of a corporate world, would this not allow you to lessen your design team? You're still going to need a person, right? Because the AI, unless that's the difference between a chat GPT approach and a machine learning based AI, but, at least the way things work in the current world as of 2024 is AI requires a person feeding it information and giving it prompts. So you can't get rid of everybody because you still need your prompt person to come in and tell them, well, what about this? And then also to fact check your AI and say things like, I don't like that, I do like that, whatever it is. But I do feel like this is a way corporate-wise to potentially remove creators. Because if you can have a machine do it and the machine doesn't cost you anything, or you don't have to pay the machine a salary. Also, when you're flat out saying that you're comfortable allowing, you're embracing AI like this, if you're going to hire freelancers, you have no guarantee that your freelancers aren't developing things with AI. And it says we need to make sure we're clear when something is AI generated. And I think that is if you're going to do this, regardless of how it fully ultimately gets implemented, I think that is the way to do it, right? Hey, this adventure was AI generated. That could open up an entire other bag of, can of worms. So think about this, right? What if they decide that they're going to release an anthology series, and the entire anthology series is AI generated? And what if the AI generated anthology series just is so much better designed than any of the creator, freelance, or otherwise designed versions of anthology series we've received in the past? That is a conversation I don't feel people like I don't think people are ready to have that. Like, what if the AI stuff is better than the human generated stuff? Again, this is purely hypothetical. We don't know what extent this is going to happen. That's probably an extreme where an entire book is written by an AI. But here's the other thing. If you could pay one designer to feed prompts into your proprietary AI and it spits out a book, and the book is, obviously it'll go through playtesting and editing and whatever it is. But if it works out well, then you basically only have to pay your editors, your artists, and your one prompt feeder person, and then not the rest of the team. Then again, I mean, if we're talking about AI in this liberal usage of it, now, nowhere in here did it say anything about art, but there's like one more sentence, so let's keep reading. But the themes around using AI to enable user-generated content, using AI to streamline new player introduction, using AI for emergent storytelling, I think you're going to see not just hardcore brands like D&D, but also multiple of our brands. Okay, so, we need to make it clear when something is AI generated. The themes around using AI to enable user-generated content. So this is allowing the players, the users, to use AI in some way. Now, maybe this is something as simple as, name creation, backstory creation, right? Maybe if you're trying to build a character on D&D Beyond, right? We already have prompts for new players to kind of walk you through how to build a character. Maybe the background section has like, you can write it out yourself, type it out how you want, or maybe it'll have an option that says, would you like to work, help, would you like our help generating your backstory or something like that? And then maybe it has user generated or AI generated prompts that say things like, okay, what's your character's biggest dream? What's your character's biggest flaw? How do they have any, important relationships with people in their past? Mentors, family members, whatever, right? How does your character experience downtime? Like, what do they do when they're not adventuring? If they could have any kind of magical item or magical power in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, what would they want? And all this stuff, and it gives you a series of prompts, like a personality quiz, essentially. And then you type in your responses, hit enter, and it spits out a backstory based on all of that. And then, it says something like, do you like this? Would you like to change any aspects of this? And then you work with the backstory generator piece to build your backstory. And then, now you don't have to worry about not having enough when you show up at the table. You have a cool, unique backstory designed by you with some input from an AI. Maybe that's the user-generated content that we're talking about. And it says using AI to streamline new player introduction. I'm not really sure what that would look like unless it was what I just talked about. Like I said, I understand the concept of trying to use AI to remove mundane, tedious tasks like taking meeting minutes or things along those lines. And then it says using AI for emergent storytelling. That seems to toe the line of AI DMs, in my opinion. I don't know that. But using AI for emergent storytelling, well, how so? Unless the DM is asking the AI to generate them box text for, like descriptive text for the scene that they're in, and they feed that in to the AI. Hey, I'm in the party's in a cave. They're fighting an owlbear. There's an owlbear at the end of the cave. The cave is dark and dank, and it's 20 degrees, and they're there in wintertime. None of the party have dark vision, so somebody's lighting a torch, and that's the light source. Give me, descriptive text to read to them. Blah, 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 enter, and then it spits you out a piece of box text for you to iterate to the party as they walk in. And granted, I just basically described the entire scene, and that could be enough for the party, but if you want something with more eloquent words to maybe be a little bit more immersive, maybe that's what it means. I'm not really sure. But I think you're going to see that not just our hardcore brands like D&D, which is also interesting to hear that D&D is a quote officially from the CEO of Hasbro, a hardcore brand, which is definitely not where I would have put it 10 years ago. I would have said like Transformers was a hardcore brand, and Magic the Gathering maybe, and D&D was like not the case, but also multiple of our brands. So nowhere in here does he mention the usage of AI art. But also, I mean, if you're one, it's already got a foot in the door if you're using it for other aspects. How long is it before you now move into the usage of AI for art? And from what I've seen on the internet, obviously there is a lot of janky AI art, as I'm sure many of you have seen. There's been a lot of weird videos going around of people like taking a bunch of their like vacation photos and editing it in, like putting it into an AI and then giving the AI the ability to use to make a video of it, and it gets weird. It is bizarre, trippy craziness. But that's now, and who knows what iteration of it. I mean, for a while ago, I'm sure you've heard this, the AI music was going on, where people would feed prompts into an AI music generator and then say, hey, make me a country song about whatever, make me a pop song about whatever this is. And it would do a pretty good job. And that was like the second or third iteration of that version of AI. And honestly, personal opinion, I don't think AI is going anywhere. It feels like just the pervasiveness has started to make its way out into the community. So like previously, maybe a couple years ago, I would have said AI kind of felt like 3D technology, right? It started off with the red and green glasses back, in the day, and then it moved up to the more real 3D. And like 3D, it is like it's on a cycle, right? Every so many years, 3D makes its comeback. Like 3D shows up, a couple years ago when the Nintendo 3DS came out, that had the slider to adjust your, non-glasses required 3D. 3D televisions were a thing for a while there. And I feel like we've kind of fallen into the out cycle of 3D, but probably in the next 5 years, a new version of 3D technology will come up and we'll get 3D back in the media. And it's not a mainstay. 3D kind of cycles, right? Whereas AI, I feel like since its inception, it has been present constantly. I don't think AI is going to be a fad that's going to go away. I do think it's going to be something that you're going to see invade and become a part of a lot of different aspects of all communities across the board, whether that's your car learning to self-drive or apparently, new player streamline introduction, something that takes your meeting minutes. Hey, I mean, we already have things that kind of work to some degree, like Siri and other things where you're like, hey, tell me this, or Alexa or whatever. So it's just a matter of time. These things are becoming mainstays in people's everyday life. So do I think it's going to find its way to be fully integrated into the world of Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, but I also feel like it's going to make its way into everything. And that's why he also, I think, says here at the end, but also multiple of our brands. Could this be a small soldier situation where you get a Transformers Optimus Prime that has its own AI chip in it that can talk to you and react to your, commands? That's a little creepy. That's how we get weird, like, Megan doll situations. I don't know, but who knows what it's going to be like. Like I said, no usage of AI art mentioned, but once AI's got a foot in the door, how long is it for you before you're like, man, sure would be a lot cheaper if we just generated this art, and if the art, prompts and things become better and better to the point where you're not getting the weird too many fingers, extra eyeballs, whatever, weird text scrawled across the screen that doesn't match anything. That might be the case because, we all know the one of, if not the best part of these new players handbooks is the art. And if you look at the credit page, there are so many artists. It's like more than half of the credit page is just artists because of all the artists they paid to generate the fantastic art that's inside this book. And from what we've seen, it's going to be the same thing for the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual, and probably something we're going to see for books going forward. So art is one of the biggest expenses, I think, on these books. So I wouldn't be surprised if something changes in the future. There is more to the article, though. Let's keep reading. Wizards of the Coast representatives have repeatedly said that Dungeons and Dragons is a game made by people for people, as multiple AI controversies has surrounded the brand and its parent company. Wizard updated its freelance contracts to explicitly prohibit the use of AI and has pulled down AI-generated artwork that was submitted for Bigby's Glory of the Giants in 2023 after they learned it was made using AI tools. Yeah, this is what I was talking about at the beginning. I forgot about the bit, which is good that it was here, that they did add for their freelance contracts, they are prohibiting the use of AI. Now, I don't know if that was for anything or just for freelance artwork. Who knows? I'm not on a situation where I'm making contracts with Wizards of the Coast, but it's right there. And it says a FAQ related to AI specifically notes that, quote, Hasbro has a vast portfolio of 1,900 plus brands, of which Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons are two very important, cherished brands. Each brand is going to approach its products differently. What's in the best interest of Trivial Pursuit is likely quite different than that of Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons. This statement acknowledges that Hasbro may use AI for other brands, while also stating that Wizards is trying to keep AI-generated artwork away from the game. However, while Wizards seems to want to keep AI away from D&D and Magic, their parent company CEO seems to think that AI and D&D aren't naturally opposed. This is kind of what I was talking about that left-hand, right-hand situation. And honestly, talking about the, it appearing in multiple other brands, Trivial Pursuit kind of makes sense, right? You need to generate a bunch of questions to just slap on cards, and, that might be something you could use AI for. Hey, I need 3,000 questions covering these 5 topics about pop culture related things in the past 5 years or whatever. And then just have your proprietary AI spit it out into a spreadsheet somewhere so that somebody can go throw it on cards. Now, again, it's still going to need somebody to fact check all of that. So maybe that isn't the way to go, because if you have to fact check every single clue and answer, then maybe it would be better to just have somebody write it out in the first place, because they might have to write out and, know the question and the answer ahead of time. I don't know. But yeah, that FAQ saying specifically that, each brand is its own, which does make sense. What works for Magic doesn't necessarily work for D&D, doesn't work for Transformers or Monopoly or Trivial Pursuit or what have you. And that's true, and that is good to allow them to do their own thing. And if you notice in that statement specifically from the FAQ, Wizards is trying to keep AI-generated artwork away from the game, meaning for Magic the Gathering and for D&D. And it does seem, again, we'd seen across the board, that it seems that Wizards of the Coast doesn't want AI in Dungeons and Dragons. However, the CEO of their parent company is like, no, everybody uses AI. Everybody uses AI for D&D. We're gonna use it significantly and liberally throughout the company. It's gonna be part of D&D. So is this again a Wizard says one thing and then Hasbro Corporate says the other? I don't know. It's hard to say. But if Chris Cox has his way, it seems like AI will be pervasive throughout the world of D&D. And like I said, maybe there is means to make this work, right? Maybe if it's something that streamlines the back end of D&D Beyond, that allows it to update faster, that allows it to incorporate the rules properly, to have the roles add certain things to them. Maybe a streamlining version of AI allows them to bring back Unearthed Arcana in the future and have it be part of D&D Beyond. Because we used to get AI or Unearthed Arcana in D&D Beyond that you could use within a week or so of it being added, so that you could play with the new stuff in D&D Beyond. And then that obviously was abandoned a while ago as the team got smaller and smaller. And as we've seen, there's been a bunch of updates and things on D&D Beyond to try to incorporate a lot of the new stuff that we switched to 2024, but it's still not 100% there. And perhaps part of that reasoning could be a lot of that work maybe could be handled by a proprietary AI on the back end to make things go a little bit smoother. I don't know, but if that's the case, and maybe that's the way things need to happen for folks to embrace it as a community. And again, I'll pose this question to all of you. What are your thoughts on this potential usage of AI in the world of Dungeons and Dragons? Is it very cut and dry for you? No AI, yes AI without question? Or is it more of a gray area? What if the usage of AI in Dungeons and Dragons, like I said, was to aid D&D Beyond to be a better tool, and you never saw anything about it being AI, right? Maybe it was all behind the scenes and you were never aware that the AI was dealing with the computations behind the scenes to make things run smoother or more optimized on a PC. Who knows, right? We're not sure how that's going to look, but I'm curious where people's thoughts are. Maybe I'll release a poll here on YouTube that just says something like, what are your thoughts on AI's usage in Dungeons and Dragons? Like, yes, you're for it, staunchly against it, or maybe somewhere in the middle where you're like, it depends on how it's used. Because, like I said, I don't think AI is going anywhere in the grand scheme of the world. I think AI is going to continue to grow and to continue to become an aspect of our everyday lives, whether we want it to or not. Hopefully, we don't get to a Matrix Skynet situation where the AI becomes self aware. I would hope that the people creating these AIs uh, have seen those movies to know the fact that like it's so much of a cliche that we shouldn't let that happen, that they do put in fail safes to prevent that from happening. Um, but yeah, like I said, I don't think it's going anywhere. And maybe this is the right move, right? Maybe D&D is like we should get in and embrace it early before we're left in the dust, right? That could also be where things are coming from, I could imagine, right? If every company across the board is embracing AI to stay relevant in some form or another going forward into the future, it might be the make or break on some companies when they adopted AI. Or it could just be a massive, pitfall in embracing AI at all. If I'm wrong and AI does become a thing of the past in 2 years and you spend all this money building a proprietary AI and then AI is basically just banned, by the UN or something, whatever it is, just gets rid of AI entirely, and then like you spend all this money building up an AI to only have it be shut down at a higher level than you, then that might bankrupt your company. Or like I said, it might be like whoever buys in first is the one that ends up becoming super successful in the future. I don't know. But anyway, I thought this was worth presenting just because of the fact that we've seen so much difference between like no AI and then like, oh my god, I love AI. And it's very much feels like it's a WotC versus Hasbro situation. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.